let's get into the story time of LA. I went recently to the Mogul chessboxing event. Now, for those of you who don't know what chessboxing is, it's like a few minutes of chess, a few minutes of boxing. It's a really fun time. It was last minute to go to in LA. I don't know why I suddenly wanted to go. It was probably because everyone else was going and I was like, ugh, FOMO. You know how that goes. But it didn't come without a little bit of trial and tribulation. For starters, let's start the morning of when I'm supposed to go to the airport. When it comes down to me and trips, I am notorious for packing very last minute. You guys know how that goes. You leave stuff behind, everything. Now, unfortunately, that cost me a little bit of time. The Uber happens to pull up right as I'm turning off my computer, in which I opt then to message them and say, hey, just so you know, I'm turning off my PC. I will be outside in 2 minutes. Now, listen, you'd think as any decent human being that looks at the Uber ride, they'd say, cool. They respond okay with a smiley face. And I think they do just that. Everything's fine. And little do I know that when I walk outside, there is nobody there. That's right, no Uber driver. There's no Uber driver. They drove off. And as I walked outside, I get the notification that they canceled my ride. Now, mind you, I'm running a little bit late. I call another Uber. I get into the Uber. The lady drives super fast. She's wonderful. I get into the airport. I get there just in time enough to board. And I had, honestly, a great flight. I didn't get a lot of sleep, but I had a really great flight. When I land, I got to meet Radstads at the actual chess boxing event for the BTS, which was actually really amazing. I got to be around people like Ludwig and Aiden, Nick, Slime, a bunch of the creators, Point Crow, Disguised Toast, and it was really, really cool to be in the presence of so many people that were working hard for such an event, even if I was just there for a very short time. So I really enjoyed that a lot. Now, that's all to say that I really just was trying to just get back and enjoy time and get everything together because I've been a flight all day. But I found out that Diddy and Balvin were with BB at an arcade. So I decided to go to said arcade to hang out with my friends. Now, here's the issue. We go to the arcade and the arcade is pretty fun. But you see, all of us are pretty competitive. And we find this one machine that we spent about 20 minutes on. Now, in a public arcade, it's a lot of time to spend on a machine. And it was a basketball Connect 4. We did a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket. I don't want to admit that I lost to BB Smalls, but I did. Yep, BB Smalls, that is 4'8" BB Smalls. So needless to say, upon leaving the arcade, I was feeling a little bit depressed. But we leave the arcade and we end up going to Radstad's party that night, which was a very fun time. Shout out to Radstad's, lovely, lovely friend. Everyone there that I met was super, super amazing. It was overall a really great time. Now, I was supposed to stay at Radstad's house, okay? I was supposed to stay on their couch. That was one of the only reasons that I was going, was because I could sleep on their couch and avoid having to pay for an Airbnb and everything, because it, again, was very last minute. But when I get there towards the end of the night, I realized that somebody else is also wanting to sleep on the couch, and Balvin and Diddy had a free couch at their Airbnb. So it made more sense for me to give her all of the space so that I could just sleep on their couch and then we would have separate spaces. I decided to do that, and I end up at 4 in the morning going back with Balvin, because Diddy had left early, to go and sleep on their couch. Now, we show up and I realize that there's no extra blankets in any of the closets, mind you. And I have to go and check Diddy's room. But Diddy has been asleep for 3 hours. So what do? I slowly open the door. I peek my little head in and I see Diddy is like snoring, all right? Passed out. Donezo, he's knocked out, KO, sleeping. And I go, oh, how precious, you know? I'm just gonna sneak by him with my little tippy toes, go to the closet, check if the closet has blankets, and then I'll move. I'll get in, get out of the room. I'm in there. I don't wake Diddy up. Nobody knows that I'm here. Easy peasy. Unfortunately, that is not how it worked. Because you see, when I snuck in, Balvin is waiting for me and watching me tiptoe, in which it causes Balvin to laugh. And I start laughing because I hear Balvin laughing. So then I am looking in the closet, I see no blankets, and I decide to go, okay, fine, I'll leave. And I turn around and walk out, only to see Diddy slowly go, because he had just woken up. Now, normally, as a friend, you'd think you'd go, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. And you'd let them sleep. But it's Diddy we're talking about, and quite frankly, it's me. So I said, sorry, I'm sleeping here, by the way. And then he goes, huh? And then I punched him twice. And then I left. After Diddy takes the punch, he wakes up and comes out of the room, only to Balvin and I either A, dancing around because we had been drinking, or B, we were also making fun of him for even getting up to begin with. That was about the energy we were on for the rest of the night, and probably about the next hour and a half before we all crashed and immediately went to sleep. But circling back before we went to bed, you will see that there are actually 0 blankets in the Airbnb. So the photo that I posted on Twitter of me sleeping underneath pillows was actually real. And in fact, if you're wondering, well, Cinna, didn't you get a little bit cold? So I took a sweatshirt, put one leg through one armhole, one leg through the other, and that's about the sweatpants that I wore, but it was really a sweatshirt. They looked like, you know those drop crotch joggers? You know what I'm talking about? Or like hammer pants? They kind of looked like those. Never once got cold the whole time. I slept underneath 2 big couch pillows. I had a singular pillow for my head and MC Hammer pants, and I was golden. Of course, needless to say, because I was in the living room, Diddy's 7-foot tall ass, waking up, stomps around the Airbnb because he cannot help himself. So I was up at the sharp, ripe hour of 9 a.m. Can't say it's not deserved because I punched him. I can't say it's not deserved. I really can't. We chill out for the rest of the day, and we end up going to the chessboxing event, what, by the way, was an absolutely amazing event. There was not a moment where I was bored or having not a good time at all. Every single one of the fights was equally fun, and me, as somebody who doesn't even really play chess at all, still felt like I had a good time in watching a lot of the matchups. And all of the entertainers that were actually fighting killed it. They killed it. I mean, hands down, one of like the best creator events that I've seen in a while. Granted, I don't get to go to that many, but I think that one was just very, very, very well done. Flash forward to later that night. Diddy, myself, and Balvin decide that we're just gonna go back to the Airbnb and rest because we were pretty tired. It just got to a point where we had partied the night before. There was no real need to party again the other night, so we had a decent night in. But then we decided, why not go home and party? And I bought for everyone a bunch of soju, as well as some Tito's vodka. Now, listen. You know anything about soju? Soju tastes like juice. It slowly sneaks up on you. And every time it does, next thing you know, you're drunk. Well, me, I was so tired, I barely drank any of mine. I actually just went to sleep. I passed out. Diddy, on the other hand, drinks a decent amount, and so does Balvin. Balvin's tired. Balvin goes to sleep. And Diddy has a video of both me and Balvin passed out on the couch. But you know what's worse? The roles reverse, and then Diddy falls asleep. And Balvin turns to Diddy and says, hey, Diddy, you fell asleep. You know, like you're an adult, you tell them you fell asleep, and they can go lay down if they want, right? Because I was also asleep. That way I could go to bed on the couch, and Diddy is in my space. But something you guys should know about Diddy is like a 3-year-old kid that does not want to admit that he's tired. So when Diddy falls asleep and you wake him up and say, hey, you went to bed, you fell asleep, Diddy will go, no, I didn't. For he's in my spot on the couch. He's literally in my spot. There's no reason for you to just go to bed. The only person who's hindered by you not sleeping is you. The only person. And Diddy eventually falls asleep. Okay, he eventually falls asleep. He gets up, goes to bed, giga chat. We had a really good night. And Diddy is leaving the next morning, okay? So we say bye-bye to Diddy, and Diddy goes out, and we had woken up pretty late. Now, BB invites us to go to Little Tokyo. And Balvin and I have the great idea of taking a shot before we go. Now, here's the problem with that. I don't drink often. I didn't get drunk. Balvin actually is pretty heavyweight, so he doesn't really bother him at all. But it's not even that I got drunk. It's that I didn't pee before we left. So let me explain to you what happens. The Uber shows up after I call it and says, hey, I'm outside. Balvin and I grab one of the keys because there's a key and a spare key. We go and walk outside. And as we step out, it was almost as if the Uber driver looked back and said, I'm not picking these two bums up, and fucking dipped because the Uber driver drove off. I could not believe it. Balvin and I were on the sidewalk and we watched the Uber disappear into the distance. So Balvin and I are like, well, what the fuck? And we go, well, that's fine. We're just gonna go back inside and wait for the next Uber. I'm gonna call another one. Balvin goes to unlock the front door, only to realize the front door key is not working. Odd, because we used the other key to get in too. And there were supposed to be 2 spare keys. Balvin goes, well, that's a little weird. He reaches out to the Airbnb people, in which the Airbnb people swear up and down that the key should work and that we are just putting it in wrong. We ask them if we can have the code to the cleaner's lockbox, which has keys for the door in the lockbox. And they say, sure, we'll give you the code in a little bit. If you guys are going out, don't worry about it. We'll have it to you by the time you get back. Call another Uber, we get in. And as we're driving, because it's been such a long amount of time, I realize I have to pee. Now, we were about 20 minutes out from our destination. Now, if you know anything about alcohol pees, they go very quickly. It's upon me that me and God are having a conversation in this Uber, and I am questioning whether or not he cares about me because I feel like I'm about to pee myself in this Uber. And I keep looking down at the Uber app. I'm looking down, and I'm like, okay, we're like 5 minutes closer. We hit every single red light. We were like 10 minutes out for 20 minutes because we were hitting so many red lights. It was that many. We end up passing a 7-Eleven in which I finally am so stressed out. I asked the Uber driver, hey, we're close enough. We can walk there. Can I please just get out so we can go to this 7-Eleven? I hop out and I'm almost, you know that like waddle where you're having to like keep your legs together a little bit because you have to pee? That's me. I'm doing that. And I go into the 7-Eleven and I see the doors in the background. And also an employee is walking over there. And I go back there to see that it's a bathroom that says employees only. Luckily, the employee that was there was a woman. And so when I walked up, I said, please, ma'am, can I use your bathroom? And she gave me a look like she was supposed to say no. And then I said, before she could answer, I said, ma'am, you do not understand. I am going to pee myself. It is that bad. I need to, please. I said, please, I will buy anything you need me to. Please just let me go. But I emphasized that she was a woman for one reason. She said she understood and would let me go, but told me that if the men employees asked me if I was let into the bathroom, I had to tell them that it was because I was pregnant. Because otherwise, even then, they probably would be upset and not let me ever come back to that store. And as I'm leaving the store, I take the longest way around to avoid the cash register. I go all the way around so that way none of them ask me or bother me at all, because I really don't want to say that I'm pregnant, because if one of the guys says, oh, you look beautiful for your pregnancy, and he actually thinks that I'm pregnant, I'm gonna freak out. Listen, because if I know that I could gain to lose a little bit of weight, all right? But to actually, if a guy actually says that I look pregnant, I'm gonna lose my shit, okay? I'm gonna lose it. So I don't want to do that. I want to just avoid it all entirely. Let's just avoid it. We end up leaving and we go and we meet up with BB and Polite. Rad shows up. A bunch of our other friends show up. Dot Colin, Deadstock, Nullport. It was a really, really, really great time. So now we are leaving Little Tokyo, Balvin and I, to get back. Now, mind you, I booked my flight for midnight that night, all right? I was going to leave at midnight on Monday so that I could get back on Tuesday and peacefully have a nice day and enjoy being awake and getting work done and everything. Unfortunately, it did not work out that way. You see, I went back to the Airbnb with Balvin. And when we get to the Airbnb, we pull up the cleaner's code that they have sent us. Put it into the box. The cleaner's code is 0000. And as we open the box, it doesn't open. Nope. Hear a click, nothing. I go, maybe we typed in the code wrong. Do it again, nothing. We reach out to the Airbnb people in which we let them know we let them know that the code doesn't work. And I'm not really sure what the issue was when it came to them, but they first start off by telling us that there's no way we're putting in the code right, because that is definitely the code. We say, no, it's not. We've done it a million times, it's not. And they so much so don't believe us that after 10 minutes, they make us send them a photo of the code. Now, mind you, this is all happening when we got back at 9 p.m. on the dot. So now it is 9:10. My flight is at midnight. It boards at 11:20. And I am feeling a little bit stressed because as of right now, my luggage is locked in the Airbnb and I cannot get in the Airbnb. And also, I forgot to mention, all the windows were barred. Like as if they were trying to keep us in, like the Barbarian movie, you know? They were all barred. So you couldn't just go in through one of the windows. There was no way. You were just kind of screwed. So we are sitting outside of this Airbnb waiting for them. And we're only going based off of the communication that they give us for everything. Now, Balvin and I are sitting outside and Balvin's getting a little bit frustrated because they are not communicating with us, in which they end up realizing that they think the cleaning company changed the code. So they go, 1 second, we're going to call the cleaning company. And we think, finally, resolution. It's been about 25 minutes at this point. We're a little bit frustrated. And they end up getting back to us. And instead of saying, hey, here's the new code by the cleaning company, they say, oh, we understand. Put in the code to the smart door. There's no smart door. And we realize they don't even know what house we're at. So now we're very frustrated because we can tell that they don't know what Airbnb we're staying in. So eventually, I just tell Balvin, send them a photo of this door and say, there is no smart lock on this door. And we send it to them, in which they then respond and say, well, did you put in the code to the cleaner's box? I'm gonna have a stroke. I couldn't believe it. So now we've gone full circle, okay? We explained to them that the cleaner's box doesn't work. We explained to them that there's no smart lock. And Balvin now 3 times has responded also, and also said that I had a flight that I had to get on. And he was trying to let them know that, so in case they were in the area and had a master key, they were able to come and just unlock the door. No. Instead, the guy says, 1 moment while we figure this out. And then proceeds to vanish for what is another 15 minutes. Here's where it gets so ridiculous. As it is about 9:45, 9:50. And I am gauging that if I was to wait another 10 minutes, I don't think that I will make my flight. I think it will be too risky to even try to make my flight. That's it. So I decide that if another 10 minutes passes and we can't get in, I am going to cancel my flight and move it. The Airbnb people reach out to Balvin and they say, hey, can we call you? Sure, we say, what's the, please, anything at this point, because it's freezing cold. It's like 40 something degrees outside. It is freezing cold. It is not fun. We are not having a good time. We've been stuck outside. I'm about to miss my flight. And he goes, can you walk over to the side of the house? And he goes, open that box right there. And in there is an emergency key. And for 45 minutes, that key has just been sitting there. And not once did they ever just say, hey, we can tell you where the emergency key is. And I grab the key and immediately run inside. And I laughed because I said, it wasn't even like, I can live with what happened, right? I can live with it. But the key was right there. Just say that it's there. I don't get it. So eventually, this just gets so out of hand, that I am running and grabbing all my stuff. And I call an Uber that is going to be there in 6 minutes because I know I might not make my flight. I end up getting actually to the airport on a decent time. An actual decent time. Wasn't too bad. The Uber driver was pretty nice. We went there. He didn't talk to me at all. But at least he didn't leave me like the other 2 Uber drivers in this story. So I gave him a really great tip. I end up getting to the airport, actually getting on my flight, and I didn't sleep at all. But I can't necessarily say that was the worst thing that happened on my trip, so...